Welcome back to Connect MKE. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning has been on the League of Women Voters of Milwaukee County. The Police Accountability and Community Safety Committee advocates locally to support reforms in policing and police governance, as well as enhance knowledge and engagement with respect to police-related matters with the League and broader community. I'm happy to be joined by Linda Laarman, who is a principal author of the League of Women Voters of Milwaukee County report, which is titled A Clarion For Change, Report and Recommendations on the Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission. How are you, Linda?
I'm very well. Thank you, Andrea.
I thank you for taking the time out to talk to us today. If you would tell us more about this report and what sparked it.
Well, our committee, the Police Accountability and Community Safety Committee, formed just about 2 years ago. And we were League volunteers who, frankly, none of us were experts about the police, but we engaged in several months of a study, reading, discussion among ourselves. And after 3 or 4 months, decided that we wanted to do something about policing in Milwaukee, and that the place to principally engage on encouraging better policing was the governing board, the Fire and Police Commission. So about a half a dozen of us took this task on and spent about a year preparing the report, the first half of the year researching and again discussing among ourselves, and the second half of the year writing the report. And we include approximately 30 recommendations in total in several areas to try to get the FPC to be, and not saying that they aren't, but to be a strong policy-making entity over the Milwaukee Police Department, and to work, to be that entity, to work with a strategic plan, a meaningful strategic plan, to take into account what they find out through audits and the complaint procedures, and to be informed by the community. We also make several other recommendations that the FPC can do on its own, or that would take common council and mayoral action, and some recommendations for state law changes, because the FPC is ultimately a creature of state law.
Okay, so it's all very interesting, and you said this all came about, the committee itself, about 2 years ago. So I'm wondering if the George Floyd scenario played a part in really the conversation which led to the importance behind paying attention to policing that happens right here where we live.
Absolutely it did, Andrea. That incident, as you know, occurred in, I believe, May 2 years ago, and our committee formed in June. Okay. And not just, I mean, that was definitely a impetus for the formation of the committee, but we were also aware at the time of problems here in Milwaukee locally. The commission had its own problems around that time. You may recall that the commission sort of churned through 3 executive directors in about the same number of years. I think this occurred a little later in time, but there was an ethics allegation of misconduct at the level of the chair of the FPC. Ultimately, there was a big problem with the commission not following due process when it attempted to terminate Police Chief Morales. So there were definitely things, that we wanted to take on locally. But yes, the George Floyd incident was definitely an impetus.
All right. So you have stated, you as in the organization, that Milwaukee is fortunate to have a civilian-led structure that's already in place. So in your view, improvements in policing are dependent on improvements to this commission. So you presented this almost 60-page report, the list of recommendations, and you've told us some of the things that are within this report. So we have witnessed several changes. We have a fairly new police chief in Jeffrey Laarman, new mayor that's been elected, Cavalier Johnson, and I'm interested in how those factors play a role in how you are presenting this report, especially to people who are new in their positions.
We're excited about the new mayor and the new police chief. And we were fortunate that Chief Laarman invited us to meet with him and his command staff early on after we issued the report. And the FPC, through a committee chaired by Ed Falone, invited us to meet with them. We had kind of a flurry of meetings going. We also met with, presented the report to the NAACP, which was a privilege for us to do. And we don't want the report to just be something that stuck in a desk drawer and goes nowhere. So we're now at the stage of starting to do what I would call on the ground advocacy, and having, setting up some meetings with, again, the FPC itself, preparing to meet with members of the council and the mayor if possible, that kind of thing. We wouldn't want to confront anyone with, oh, here are 30 recommendations, let's talk about all 30, but try and figure out sort of what's doable, in bites. We recently were in touch with the FPC and the mayor about developing and enacting a strong diversity plan for the Milwaukee Police Department. It's actually required that they have such a plan that addresses everything from hiring to retention to promotions, and required by what's called the Collins settlement, which was the settlement that resulted from a lawsuit having to do with disproportionate impacts in policing on people of color. And so the Collins settlement, which you may be very familiar with, has numerous requirements in it to frankly get rid of the racism in policing. And one of the things that is required is that the FPC develop a diversity plan. And to our knowledge, they don't really have that yet. So that's one of the things we're currently asking for.
All right. I think it's all very interesting, and it really is a great example of the work that you do within the League of Women Voters of Milwaukee County. So please keep us up to date on the work that you're doing, and thank you for taking the time to tell us all about this very interesting report.
Thank you so much. This has been a great opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Linda Laarman. She's a member of the League of Women Voters of Milwaukee County, and she is a principal author of their report, again titled A Clarion For Change, Report and Recommendations on the Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission. Again, you can visit their website at lwvmilwaukee.org. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll return to discuss the voting rights for people with disabilities. We'll find out more about Disability Rights Wisconsin right after this.